It is said that the orchid has always had a unique place in ethnic Chinese culture. In addition to its wide diversity of intriguing shapes and fascinating color combinations, the flower has been extolled in the works of Chinese literati as a symbol of the moral excellence of a man or the beauty of a woman. And some types of orchids have long been used in Chinese herbal medicine. For many centuries, however, growing orchids was an activity limited to a small group of dedicated hobbyists. That situation persisted in Taiwan until around 2 decades ago, when the joint efforts of the government, researchers, and farmers turned the old hobby into a big business. Statistics from the Council of Agriculture, which is the COA in Taiwan, show that in 2009, Taiwan's orchid export valued reached US $86.8 million, accounting for 78% of the country's total flower exports. If that value is translated into quantity, it can be seen that Taiwan produced approximately a third of the world's orchids in 2010. One of the main orchids Taiwan now produces is the Oncidium, or dancing lady orchid, which was introduced to Taiwan about 2 decades ago. Since 2002, the species has now become Taiwan's top-selling cut flower, with those that are exported going exclusively to Japan. More than 20 million dancing lady orchids are shipped there each year, supplying 85% of the demand in the Japanese market. While the dancing lady created an export value of $6 million US, or 7% of Taiwan's total orchid exports in 2009, they were actually a distant second to sales of the moth orchid. The moth orchid accounted for $65 million US in value, or 75% of Taiwan's total export of the plant. Although only 2 of the world's approximately 60 species of moth orchids are native to Taiwan, local breeders have collected nearly all the species from around the planet and have hybridized more than 2,000 varieties. What is noticeable is that around 90% of the products grown in its greenhouses in Taiwan are exported to Japan, Canada, the United States, and European countries. The view of experts is that orchids can be mass-produced through tissue culture, in which individual plant cells are used to regenerate a whole plant. Tissue culture is also an easy technique to learn, which enables many local growers to duplicate their unique varieties in large quantities. On a trip to Taiwan by the GIS, NTN staff, they were invited to visit the Taida horticulture establishment, and also an invitation was extended to attend the Taipei Flora Exposition, a major flora event which was taking place for the first time in Taiwan between November 2010 and April 2011. Before going to the Flora Exposition, the team had an opportunity to visit Taida, a well-known establishment in Taiwan dealing primarily with orchids, although other flowers are grown at that establishment. The owner and managing director of the firm took an interest in horticulture when he was at university, and the passion became an obsession.
After I graduated from the school, I go to the Taiwan Agricultural Institute, and for the research, the teacher culture in the laboratory. And do you know, my family is farmers. Yeah, my father always doing so many kinds of the planting, vegetable, grape, and also culture the the chicken and the goats, every kind. But I younger stage, I also together with my father doing in my holiday. So I think that it's too much work. So if I just study, I just research in the office people, and I find what is my future. So I doing the 5 years in the office people, and after I think that my father, we have land in Taiwan, and so I think I can develop the farmers change the item from the grape, vegetable to the orchid item.
At the firm's establishment, we saw the various varieties of orchids the company has produced over the years and the method of packaging not only for export but also for orders within Taiwan. This particular firm is a big exporter of orchids to markets like America, Japan, the Netherlands and elsewhere. Over the years, through their experiments, they have produced 387 varieties of orchids, and some are simply magnificent, even to those who are not a connoisseur of orchids. The majority of orchids we saw was pleasing to the eye, so much so, the first thing that came to mind was that many of them would be seen and exhibited at the International Flower Exposition in Taipei, Taiwan. What the team got out of the interview was that here was a man who had his life's wish fulfilled. He did not just sit and dream about that wish, but simply went out to make it happen. There is no doubt in one's mind that such an establishment plays a very important part in the development of Taiwan as a country. Quite clearly, the entrepreneurial attitude is alive and well in that country. The company is one of the major exporters of orchids in the world. It is this entrepreneurial spirit by the title owner that exists in many facets of life. The drive for excellence and hard work continues to be the main aim of the government and the people of Taiwan. Establishment to visit the Taipei International Flora Exposition. They were never in doubt that some of the orchids he spoke about so lovingly would be at the Flora Exposition. Taipei City welcomed the world to the exposition on the 6th of November 2010. It was the largest event of its kind to be hosted anywhere in Taiwan, and only the 7th time the flower show had been held in Asia. The event did keep up to its promises to be lively, and what was seen on the opening night was so spectacular. Words cannot describe the organization and the resources that went into arranging such a spectacular show.
I want to thank the government of Taipei for the contribution it has made to the horticultural profession through this international expo.
Taiwan's motto is to touch your heart. And we must confess that on that particular night, it did touch our hearts. The following day, it was the turn of the foreign minister to invite the dignitaries from other parts of the world to lunch at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, MOFA. He met and thanked them for attending the Flora Exposition. They seemed ecstatic about what they had seen and believed that the Flora Exposition was one of the best they had been to. Yet, exotic flowers that would touch the hearts of many, both Taiwanese and visitors alike. The policies for recycling, which seems to be at the forefront of the government's thrust for a cleaner and safer environment, thereby enriching the lives of the people, was noticeable at the Flora Exposition. This major Flora Exposition was a unique way for Taiwan to boost its image on the world stage. It was also a way of letting visitors know firsthand the innovation and achievements of the island's industry and research capabilities, coupled with the warmth and hospitality of the Taiwanese people. An opportunity was given to them, and they showed that they were world-class in the way they delivered this Flora Exposition. We are of the view that Taiwan has much to offer the world. Not only that Taiwan and its orchids have won numerous international awards, but they continue to take the lead role in many other facets of international business. At the Chelsea Flower Show in the United Kingdom in May 2010, Taiwanese orchids won a silver medal, and some of the island's new varieties even received praise from Queen Elizabeth II. What is intriguing is that most foreign consumers are unaware that their orchids actually originate in Taiwan, as the blossoming plants are sold under the brand names of foreign companies. Taiwan will no doubt benefit from the social and economic aims behind the display of flowers and other exhibitions. The important goals for Taiwan include substantial economic benefits for the capital city, as well as for those in industries related to the expo. The exhibition hopes to boost the local floriculture industry by promoting general interest in gardening and regular purchases of fresh flowers by local residents. However, equally important are the opportunities for raising environmental awareness and inspiring citizens to pursue a more eco-friendly lifestyle. The expo certainly will encourage those who intend to embrace new ideas and implement green practices for themselves, thereby achieving the goal of protecting precious earth and all its unique beauty. The expo organizers have put into practice a pledge to reduce, to reuse, and recycle, in one case by adopting green building principle for the construction of new facilities. The expo will no doubt showcase Taiwan's many achievements in horticulture, science, and environmental protection technology. That know-how is ably demonstrated by Taiwan's orchid industry, which was well represented during the event. It is a success story made possibly by the dedication of local orchid growers in collaboration with strategic government support through research loans and the use of farmland. In this flower expo, Taiwan, through the Council of Agriculture, exhibited fruit trees and fruit cultivation technologies developed in Taiwan over the years, such as techniques to grow and harvest fruit out of season. It was an opportunity for Taiwan to show rare plants from abroad, but it was also an occasion to feature Taiwan's native flowers and plants. The exhibition displays a sea of flowers from Taiwan and around the world, and also the country's best bonsai works. Some owners of top-class bonsai plants had refused to display their treasures in public or to enter any bonsai contest in the past, but they were willing to display them for the expo. The bonsai works on display are so valuable that they are all well insured. The Flower Expo is certainly a business opportunity for flower growers in Taiwan, which will hopefully stimulate the domestic flower market even after the event has ended. In my view, the Flora Exposition is truly a party for horticultural lovers all over the world. I'm sure that our Governor General will agree, and I'm sure that she was ecstatic by the number of flowers she saw, especially the wonderful and colorful orchids. She was privileged to visit the Flora Exposition in March 2011, exactly a month before it ended. As the pictures show, she is simply excited by what she has been privileged to see. The Taiwanese government has been prepared to share their knowledge of tissue culture and the growing of orchids with small island states like St. Lucia. There is no doubt that St. Lucia can benefit by their generosity, kindness, and friendship, which has resulted in a tremendous orchid growing facility at Union, Babono. By setting up a Taiwanese agricultural mission in St. Lucia, they have been able to share their knowledge with the government and the people of St. Lucia. Orchid cultivation and the technology that is required are now being passed on. This has resulted in a tissue culture laboratory and an aquaculture center, which is also now part of the exchange of knowledge that has taken place. In a few decades, Taiwanese farmers, researchers, and marketing professionals have turned the hobby of growing orchids into one of the world's largest floriculture industries. St. Lucians who are dedicated and entrepreneurial can do the same in years to come. In a sense, the Taiwanese government and people have not given us a fish, but have taught St. Lucians how to fish in order to survive in the floriculture industry. It is up to the people of St. Lucia how they accept this gift. Today, because of their generosity, St. Lucia, through the Union Orchid Agriculture, now has the capacity and capability of producing 100,000 orchids a year. At present, they are producing 40,000, which are sufficient for the home market, but the future target is the regional market. All efforts are being made by the Ministry of Agriculture and the Taiwanese mission to achieve this target. If this can be achieved, then the sky is the limit for St. Lucia and St. Lucians as an orchid-producing country in the Caribbean and its environs. Many farmers are now learning about the wherewithal to produce orchids, and if those farmers are successful, then St. Lucia will be well on the way as an exporter of orchids, whether regionally or internationally. This will help our GDP and balance of payment immensely. The technology is now with us. The infrastructure that is required to begin growing and exporting orchids is also here. All that remains is for St. Lucians to grasp the opportunity and use their entrepreneurial skills in producing and finding the market for their product. What has stuck in our minds is when one considers the accomplishments of a group of people in Taiwan who have managed to turn a hobby into a global industry, it leaves us with the impression that the Taiwanese people can achieve anything they set out to achieve. And in our view, this is the highest compliment and accolade that we can give 2.5 million people. In the words of the song, we certainly agree and endorse the words that Taiwan has certainly touched our hearts.